What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Elijah here, man. You already know the vibes. Reading the title right now, yeah, you're probably asking yourself, what is this watermelon chicken eater about to waffle about? So today we're going to be talking about Bennet Omalu. If I butchered that, allow me, G. And how in his discovery of CTE will change the way we look at contact sports forever. So without further ado anyway, let's get straight to it. Alright, cool. So for the people who don't know what CTE stands for chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Now, CTE is a progressive and fatal brain disease, now associated with repeated traumatic brain injuries. CTE is also associated with the development of dementia. Studies have shown that people who experience traumatic brain injuries in their early or midlife are 2 to 4 times more at risk of developing dementia late in their life. Now, the exact amount of trauma required for the condition to occur is unknown. And when we look at offensive linemen, on average, they suffer around 50 violent blows to the head in just one game, which is crazy. Our research in brain damage as a result of repeated head injuries began in the 1920s. At that time, the condition was known as dementia preglottia or punch drunk syndrome. Now, the term punch drunk originated from the observation of symptoms similar to drunkenness in boxers who had sustained repeated head trauma. Now, during the 1920s anyway, there used to be 15 rounds in boxing. So you could already imagine the amount of blows they were getting. Pause. Get your head out of the gutter, G. Now, the reason why rounds in boxing were reduced was because of the amount of deaths and injuries that were happening. Now, the first athlete ever to be diagnosed with CTE would be Mike Webster. Now, plenty of athletes find it extremely hard when it comes to retiring. Because imagine, you've dedicated your whole life to the sport and then everything just stops, you know. Your regular routine stops, innit? And it can be hard for a lot of people to adjust to that new routine anyway. But when Mike Webster retired anyway, his reaction to it anyway concerned a lot of people. He would forget to eat, he would be very tired. For long periods, Mike would live in his pickup truck, refusing offers of accommodation from friends and family. His torment was so severe that he would sometimes use a taser on himself just to sleep. Now, Mike Webster would unfortunately die of a heart attack at 50 years old. An autopsy would be done on Mike Webster's brain by Bennet Omalu. Omalu recognized a high concentration of tau proteins. For the people who don't know what tau proteins are, basically, right? So tau proteins are a type of protein found primarily in neurons, which are cells in the nervous system and that transmit information through electrical and chemical signals. Abnormalities in tau protein function or structure associated with various neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is what the great Muhammad Ali suffered from. Now, this was a rare discovery in the brain of a 50-year-old man. And given Webster's history as an offensive lineman in the NFL, it had enormous ramifications. Bennet Omalu would acquire a second brain of a high-profile NFL player, which was Terry Long. Terry Long would sadly take his own life at 45 years. And what Bennet was able to discover was that his brain had the exact same patterns of tau proteins like Mike Webster. An NFL player, Aaron Hernandez, suffered the most severe case of CTE ever discovered in a person of his age. And this would have greatly affected his decision-making, judgment, and cognition. When researchers sliced his brain into sections, when ventricles were dilated in response to the brain shrinking, and membranes that were supposed to be firm had grown thin and gelatinous. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that initially the NFL tried to intimidate scientists studying the link between pro footballers and traumatic brain injuries. The NFL would go on to say that it's not appropriate science and that Bennett's work was purely speculative. However, momentum built against the league forced them to take action, and a new 100 million initiative called Play Smart, Play Safe would be introduced, and another $60 million would go towards technological advancements like better helmets. Symptoms of CTE, which occur in 4 stages, generally appear 8 to 10 years after an individual experiences repetitive mild brain traumatic injuries. First stage symptoms are confusion, disorientation, dizziness and headaches. Second stage symptoms include memory loss, social instability, impulsive behavior, and poor judgment. The third and fourth stages include progressive dementia, movement disorders, deafness, depression, and suicidality. CTE can't be diagnosed in living patients. A clear diagnosis can only be given during an autopsy. The lack of distinct biomarkers is the reason CTE cannot typically be diagnosed while a person is alive. For the people who don't know what biomarkers are, basically, right, biomarkers are measurable indicators of a biological state or condition. Boxers currently living with symptoms of CTE are Wilfred Benitez and Harold Graham. Although there is no significant research to support the use of helmets to reduce the risk of concussions, there is evidence to support that helmet use reduces impact forces. Mouth guards have been shown to decrease dental injuries, but again have shown no significant evidence to reduce concussions. Anyway guys, if you made it to the end of this video, I want to say thank you so much for watching this video, honestly. But before we end of this video, I want to say RIP to one of my football coaches. Literally, after I finished filming this video, I literally got the news that, he died, innit? Now, Dave was a big part of my secondary school experience, he was a proper English lad, you know what I mean? You can tell by the name, he was a real geezer, innit, but he's honestly the GOAT, innit? So I just want to end off this video by saying RIP to the GOAT.